Good evening and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm Jonathan Carmody. May is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. And for all you motorcycles out there that want to go all over town, you gotta do it safely with the mufflers on. We don't want to hear that boom boom while we're trying to sleep here. But safety is number priority. For family members which you're about to meet, the helmets scattered all around the downtown area represent one person who died in a motorcycle accident. Here's Tony Hallamir.
After losing their son, Austin Gonzalez, in a motorcycle crash in January of 2023, his family decided to turn their grief into a mission. They've launched the Ghost Helmet Project, white helmets that have been placed all around Wessex County to mark the spot where motorcyclists lost their lives.
A lot of them have been forgotten, and so for us, it's not only bringing the safety awareness, but also the memorialization of the family members they lost.
This helmet was placed at the spot where Austin took his final ride on Ocean Drive in Rossiter Street.
It's a twofold project to remind car drivers of motorcycles and to remind motorcyclists of the consequences of a motorcycle accident. There's far too many accidents in Corpus.
In March of this year, I told you about the increase in motorcycle accidents in Wessex County since 2022. One of those involved Rosa and Roman Perez. In 2024, they died after their motorcycle was hit by an alleged drunk driver at Airline near SPID.
We've had a lot of people express their gratitude for what we're doing, and we're thankful for that. Anything we can help to help people heal through and get through the process.
The Gonzalez family tells me most of the helmets are donated by other riders, and they say their son's foundation is helping other families who've also lost a loved one.
We don't really ask for money. We made the shirts. We sell the shirts, but everything from what we make from the shirts go back into the motorcycle community for funerals, for hospital bills, just kind of helping people when they need help.
The Gonzalez family tells me they will pick up all the helmets at the end of May and do it all over again next year. In downtown Corpus Christi, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Tony Hadamil, Chris 6 News.
You've got to know all about motorcycle safety. Just because you see people riding motorcycles does not mean you can sit there and think to yourself, I'm gonna go buy a motorcycle and go cruising all around with some hot chicks. That does not mean that. You still have to follow the rules of the road. Like when you get in your first car, you gotta get your driver's license. And if you don't have a driver's license, you can be charged for driving without a license. A non-moving violation. So please, try to understand where people are coming from here. We want to drive safe. We're driving. I'm driving down the street. My mom's driving down the street. My brother's driving down the street. My sister-in-law's driving down the street. My neighbor's driving down the street. And we're not all concerned about you cruising around picking up chicks. We're not concerned about all of that. What we're concerned about is safety. Safety is a number priority for everybody, including our young ones. Try to understand, safety is very, very important. Not just for you and me, but for every child out there. Rape is rape. Can we stop with all these teacher-student sex allegations? Can we stop with all that? We're tired of it. Rape is rape.
School district, a staff member has developed. We have a developing story from the London School District. A staff member has been fired after allegations of an inappropriate relationship with a high school student. CCPD telling us they arrested 49-year-old Amy Spence this afternoon. Parents were notified today in a letter sent by London ISD Superintendent Bill Chapman. The letter also states that the district immediately contacted law enforcement and fired the employee. The district says the relationship was isolated to one student, and they believe there aren't any other students involved.
No students involved, there's just that one student. Rape is rape. I don't know how many times we have to talk about this. Rape is just rape, no matter where you came, no matter which state you live in. Every state you live in, every 50 states, Texas, California, Florida, Idaho, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. City, state you live in. Texas, Houston, California, Florida, New York, Kansas, Missouri. Every state that you live in, statutory rape. That's how it is. We all see sex scandals, and it's not just a scandal. It's rape. Rape is rape, or statutory rape. Any 50 states you live in, that's statutory rape. You as an adult can be charged for statutory rape and be sentenced to jail. Did anyone not learn nothing from all these stories we see on the news? Nobody has learned a goddamn thing. For that one teacher, she resigned because of this one student. She resigned, got divorced, and still hooked up with the student. And there was one other teacher with a group of students, plural. One teacher, 5 students. Truth or dare. It's there, but nobody won. Nobody has ever learned anything. Alright. Housing authorities. Property taxes. Your property taxes could be raised. Could it be exempt from all these taxes? Next, we'll look at $350 million property deals and look at the raising questions and concerns by the Corpus Christi community all about these concerns. Does it concern your neighborhood, or is it just really a hoax to raise property taxes? Please stay with us. We're past the tax deadline, but there are plenty of people out there that are exempt from paying taxes. The states are in on this, and even cities. Housing authorities are probably exempt from paying property taxes. Over $30 million of taxes. So why the Corpus Christi Housing Authority own this place, and even then would say, we don't have to pay taxes. By law, you gotta pay taxes. You're not a tax evader. If you're a tax evader, you could go to jail for not paying your taxes. The joke I showed yesterday, the Robin Hood, we'll play it after the story. But think about this. Would you own a home and not be able to pay your taxes? You could be exempt from it, but you could avoid taxes. Countries would not even pay their fair share. Nor would village houses. No one would even pay their fair share. Equal opportunity. Everyone should be equally entitled to pay their own taxes. So what's going on with housing authorities, and why are they owed over $350 million? It's a question arises, and as we're about to tell you, nobody wants a piece of that cake. Here's Aaron Holly.
The villas on Ocean Drive, the Icon on Saratoga, South Lake Ranch on Rodfield, all high-end apartments, all owned by the Housing Authority. Just a few of the 13 properties purchased by the Housing Authority in the past 5 months. The Housing Authority claims the purchases increase the availability of affordable housing, but our investigation reveals a much more complicated story.
You know, $350 million is a gigantic series of real estate transactions in this community.
For the past 2 weeks, 6 Investigates has been digging into questions about hundreds of millions of dollars of apartment complex properties that could be removed from tax rolls. Some public officials call these types of moves tax shelters for developers.
Property that's taken off the tax rolls, that then every government that gets the tax revenue from those properties now either has to increase the tax rate for everybody else or cut services, police, firefighters, school teachers.
I went and took our questions to Corpus Christi Housing Authority CEO Gary Alsop. Here's how the deal works. Alsop says the Housing Authority acquires the land at no cost, immediately leases it back to the original owners, and then claims a 100% tax exemption. Former City Councilman David Loeb says that's not how it's supposed to work.
Tax incentives are designed to help nonprofits and governments that are actually building housing for very low income people. And that is not a very profitable business, as you would imagine. the tax exemptions are designed so those properties don't have to pay taxes. They're not designed so fancy apartment complexes on Ocean Drive do not have to pay taxes.
Nueces County Appraisal District records reveal the Housing Authority has done this with $350 million in properties, but Allsup says there are several more deals in the works, which would bring the total to just over $500 million.
I think there's about 21 properties in total, and included in those we are talking with Cameron County about taking over their properties as well.
Why mention Cameron County? Because the Cameron County Housing Finance Corporation owns $200 million worth of property in Nueces County as well. In 2022, those properties were removed from the tax rolls and have resulted in a loss of $8.4 million in unpaid taxes through 2024. Ben Martin is the research director for Texas Housers, a nonprofit focused on low-income housing in Texas.
Cameron County Housing Finance Corporation is sort of the poster child of abuse of this Housing Finance Corporation tax exemption. Housing Finance Corporations are formed by local governments to provide low-income housing for residents in their service area.
I spoke with Williamson County Commissioner Russ Bowles, who is battling similar deals in his precinct just north of Austin. His county filed suit seeking to stop deals made with the corporation in Cameron County.
You know, the people that need help with lower rents, these projects aren't delivering to these folks. And it is, it's just tragic. It is it's a money grab.
Let's break down some numbers here in your neighborhoods. The recent properties acquired by the Corpus Christi Housing Authority have a tax value of $350 million. That equates to a property tax bill of around $7.4 million. In order to avoid paying that bill, these apartment complexes must set aside half of their apartments for people who make 80% or lower of the area's median income, or AMI. In return, the Housing Authority receives a payment.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but probably $900,000, $1 million a year total. Again, we're not. The purpose here is not to get rich.
Allsup contends this provides income-adjusted rents at a complex that otherwise would not provide them. We obtained this document sent to residents at the villas of Ocean Drive. It shows the rent for those who qualify at both 80% and 60% of AMI. But when you search for available apartments online, the villas advertises several units at lower rent without any exemption. While Allsup praises the benefits of this program, experts I spoke to say workforce housing doesn't really benefit the public.
Especially affordable rental housing is by far the greatest among households that are making 50% of area median income and below, and especially 30% of area median income and below. These are the populations that housing authorities in particular were created to serve.
This is a new opportunity to provide housing for those folks that need it. It is for new families. It is for those folks that are caught in the middle. Too many times we do things for ultra low income.
Allsup also downplayed the impact of removing these properties from the tax rolls.
Is it a complaint that we're taking things that are on the list and or on the property rolls and taking them off? I can own that too, but I'm also going to suggest we're talking about 1%. It's a rounding error in their budgets.
Loeb says that rounding error will directly impact our neighbors right here in Corpus Christi.
Kind of giving one high-end private business a benefit, not adding any more housing actually to the community, and distributing the cost amongst everybody else.
I can tell you that state statute is very clear that all property of the housing authority is tax exempt. So
while Allsup says the Housing Authority has applied for the tax exemptions, the Nueces County Appraisal District tells 6 Investigates that they don't have any formal application. The district also said that should the authority apply, it's likely that those properties will qualify for one. Workforce Housing Initiative properties in Corpus Christi account for almost $800 million that could be removed from property tax rolls. That's $17.5 million in unpaid tax. For 6 Investigates, I'm Erin Hawley.
And who do we blame? We blame the taxpayers. We pay the taxes. That's what we pay. We pay the taxes for them. And you know what? I said I was gonna play you this at the end.
Texas, beautiful, lovely.
That'd be the Corpus Christi appraisal thing. Play you again because they think it went fast. Okay, so this would be the property, this would be the appraisal, and this would be the person that's running the thing.
Texas, beautiful, lovely. Texas,
And then this would be him.
But sire, it's a big hit. The whole village is singing it. Oh, they are they? Well, they'll be singing a different tune. Double the taxes, triple the taxes, squeeze every last drop out of those insolent musical peasants.
It's all about the taxes. Taxes, taxes, taxes. That's all it is. Taxes, taxes, taxes. We pay the taxes. They go. It's like, let's give all the taxes to the schools. Let's give the taxes to the housing authority. Let's give it to the people who can't afford the taxes. Let's exempt the schools. There's no exemption. Nobody should ever be exempt from paying their fucking taxes. No exemptions made. Period. Nobody. I'm gonna get a lot of anger saying, well, you baby, we're exempt from paying taxes. We don't gotta pay taxes no more. You want to be the bigger boy here. I get you want to be the bigger boy here. But you have to pay your fair share. Everybody gets their share. It ain't about people, it ain't about like a kid throwing a sword in hands because you don't want candy. I want candy. I want my candy. I want my chocolate marshmallow. Shut up. Shut up. Alright, you're gonna get your ass whooped. Alright, then that's it. You're gonna get your ass whooped. Now stand up and act like a big boy. Alright, Project Baltimore is coming up next. We don't know what's in store for them. We know what's going to be in store for Baltimore County. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Every parent's goal is to keep their child safe. Does your school have any school safety? Well, not Baltimore County. They have bills, and they have not been passed because all they care about, wait for it, taxes, beautiful, lovely taxes. It's all about the taxes. We get free education for our tax dollars. I got a good education, and they cared about school safety. Nobody in every school district, in every county, nobody cares about their child's safety. I'll tell you, I have nephews 1.5. He's going to start school in about 4.5 years. He's in daycare. But what if he got abused at his daycare and nobody did a damn thing about it? My brother would be concerned, as well as my sister-in-law and myself as a nephew, as an uncle. My nephew will not be unsafe. I'll tell you, if my nephew started school, I would make sure his ass would be safe, and I make sure that my brother would get the help that he would get him. It'll have him come home safe. We're not in Baltimore County. All they care about is scandals and not making the worst school district ever. But with all these scandals going on, can something be done about your child's school? Can something be done to make your child safe at their school? Here's Chris Papps.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title?
Maryland lawmakers were busy during 2025's legislative session. They passed new taxes and fees to raise an estimated $1.6 billion in additional revenue. They expanded assistance for displaced federal workers and passed the Second Look Act, which provides certain prison inmates with an opportunity to petition their sentences. Annapolis, in all, passed 878 pieces of legislation during the 90-day session, but some heavily debated bills dealing with school safety were not among them.
Well, it's highly disappointing. First of all, our schools are unsafe.
Multiple school safety bills were drafted and debated this legislative session as a result of Project Baltimore investigations.
It makes me angry. You're sitting there putting this monster into high school with other people's children. You're putting children at risk.
In September, Project Baltimore broke the news that Walter Martinez, an MS-13 gang member and suspected murderer, attended 2 Maryland high schools as police investigated him for the murder of Kayla Hamilton. And the schools he attended were not made aware that he was a threat.
That's a big concern.
In response to our reporting, Delegate Nino Mangione, a Republican from Baltimore County, introduced House Bill 68, which stated if a child is being investigated for a violent felony, that child cannot attend school in person until the investigation is complete.
The safety of all students and children can be considered and kept at the forefront of all decisions.
In January, Project Baltimore first reported that Baltimore City Judge Charles Bloomquist ended probation for a juvenile sex offender who had pleaded to multiple sex offenses. That decision by the judge removed the teen from the juvenile sex offender registry, allowing him to return to school in person. As a result, Republican Delegate Mike Griffith from Harford and Cecil counties introduced House Bill 952, which mandated juvenile sex offenders remain on the juvenile sex offender registry until probation is terminated or the juvenile turns 18 years old, whichever occurs later. House Bills 952 and 68 never made it out of committee. They died quickly. Opponents, such as the Maryland Office of the Public Defender, argued they violate due process rights and are unconstitutional. Proponents of the bill disagree and plan to reintroduce them next year and try again. But there was one piece of school safety legislation this session that did appear to have a chance to pass.
Hopefully the situation won't happen again.
Endorsed by Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, an influential Democrat from Howard County, House Bill 1265 mandated if a student transfers who was previously arrested and charged with a serious crime known as a reportable offense, the new school must be alerted. The State House did pass 1265, but it died in the Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee in the Senate.
We want to make sure that our schools are safe, that children are feeling safe, that parents are feeling safe sending their children to school.
The most significant state action taken this year to keep students safe,
I also have to give credit,
came from State Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Carrie Wright, and the Maryland State Board of Education.
So I think that's something that we're going to have to continue to work with our legislative colleagues on.
The State School Board in February unanimously passed a regulation mandating school system administrators alert other districts if a student who commits a reportable offense transfers. If a district violates the regulation, the state could withhold funding. The language is similar to that found in House Bill 1265, which, had it passed, would have provided harsher penalties if violated.
Over this previous legislative session,
At a recent press conference, we asked the state superintendent about the other school safety bills that did not pass, specifically the ones concerning Walter Martinez.
if that were to happen again, or it could be happening right now, that students are being investigated for murder, and the schools don't know, is that concerning to you?
I think we have to abide by the law, and I think that's the part that I think everybody's struggling with, is how do we do that in such a way that guarantees everyone's rights are protected. That, to me, is the part that we need to have further conversation about.
Project Baltimore will continue to follow legislation that affects education in the state of Maryland. In the coming days, we'll have more on school choice, which is becoming a growing movement throughout America. But in the meantime, we want to hear from you. Do you have a comment or concern about your child's education? Call our hotline, send me an email, follow us on social media, Head to foxbaltimore.com to follow our progress. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Okay. No school safety bill has passed except for one. None of the others. Because they want to claim, oh, it violates due process rights. This is not violating due process rights. This is keeping your child safe from your school. This doesn't mean like, oh, if we pass this bill, we're gonna have to violate people's rights, and we're gonna be getting complaints from the community saying that, oh, my child's rights are violated. Parents, your child does not have any rights until they turn 18 years of age. You still have the right to search the child's backpack, their room, their car. As long as they live under your fucking roof, you have the right to search these 3 fucking things. Your bag, their bag, their room, their car. It's your bag, your room, your car. And you have the right to be concerned about your child's safety. There's no need for people like you to be all like, hey, I don't want this happening. We don't want to violate rights. It's not the parents. It's the state lawmakers. It's other people aside want to say, well, we don't want to violate due process rights. It's not violating due process. This is about keeping your child safe. If you have kids, you know. And it'd be like, hey, don't you put that on me. I don't want you talking about my kid. I keep my kid safe. Okay, what about in school? I homeschool my kid. Okay, well, you're against school safety. If you don't like school safety, if you homeschool your kid and don't like school safety, you're against public schools. Look, I have a friend who homeschools her kid. I'm not against homeschooling or other alternative types of education. But what I am against is when politicians don't pass school safety bills. Would that happen? If they don't do that, if you don't pass those school safety bills, then every child in every state who goes to school is going to come home injured, shot, and dead. And school's response, and they clean the school and do nothing about it, they can sit there tonight and say, of course not. We would never hurt it. We would never hurt your child. We keep your child safe at all times. Remember the case of the two girls that got picked on? Well, one of them had me homeschool and the other did not go to school anymore. Because 2 of the principals have said, we cannot guarantee your child's safety, go home. The other one said, we'll just keep her home for a week and this will all blow over. Well, it didn't blow over. It continued on until the board members decided, hey, let's have aides with walkie-talkies walk them to school and see if that helps. It didn't help. Nobody should be doing this. They sued the school. The superintendent was like, well, I think it's an inaccurate statement. How can it be an inaccurate statement if you're trying to make sure, if you're going to make sure your child's safe at your school, what you need to do is to make sure that there are school safety bills in your state. Don't go to Maryland. Move out of the state of Maryland and move to different states that have school safety bills and that really keep your child safe. Go to a school tour. We all know what happens with school safety. Bullying plays a big part in this. In the future episodes, we're going to be bringing you some more school safety bills from the state of Maryland. Because the state does not want to get involved in school safety because all they care about is taxes, 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 and not about the children. Who would come up with this bright idea to say, okay, we're going to start caring about taxes and we don't care about our kids. We don't care about the kids, we don't care about the schools. Let's just focus on our taxes. No. Children come first. Safety comes first. Education comes first. We want our kids to be members of our community. When kids don't go to school, not only everybody loses, but things can happen, you know? They turn to a life of crime. They're homeless. They're out in the streets. They turn to crime, like, you know, shoplifting, assault, stealing, possession of drugs. And when they're homeless, they turn to drugs and alcohol, and it provides a sedative for the homeless people and for the runaways. When a child wanders away from home, doesn't go to school, they're bound to be turning to drugs and alcohol. It's a sedative. And when people join gangs, they're not in school. Because there's a link between truancy, gangs, and crime. In other states like California, parents can be charged for failure to send their kids to school, or even the worse, contributing to the educational neglect for a child and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Those are misdemeanors, and in one of those, you can be fined $1,000 and he's sentenced to 6 months in jail. School safety is very, very important, and it's my job, and it's our job on Give Me a Break to help you make sure that your child is safe in your schools. So in the coming future episodes, we're going to be focusing more on the Baltimore County School District and see if they can clean up their act. If they don't clean up their act, we're going to report it. If they still don't do it, we're going to report it. And they do, we're going to tell it to you as well. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Throughout the 8.5 years of this broadcast, it has been my sole duty to put a stop to bullying, which is why which was 5 years ago, that I created Stop Bullying, Speak Up. It's a group to where you can you can find some stories about, not just stories about people who have been bullied, you can also find, if you give me Rick episodes about bullying and how you handle bullying. And if you've been logging on to our newsletter, you've already known about how you can protect your child from bullying. And throughout a couple weeks, we've been showing you countless stories after stories after stories of people who have victims who have committed suicide because of bullying. Tonight, the story continues. Tonight, it's continuing. Amelia schools are holding a special meeting after a family attributes students' suicide to relentless bullying. This happened in Virginia. Take a look.
This small Southside Virginia community, as a 17-year-old died by suicide after his family said it's been a heartbreaking 10 days for this small Southside Virginia community, as a 17-year-old died by suicide after his family said he endured, quote, relentless bullying. John Church's family members told CBS 6 they've reported the bullying their son experienced to the school multiple times and have been in contact with school representatives by email, phone, and text. Janet Jones, the mom of an Amelia County elementary schooler, says her daughter also faced bullying in her first grade classroom last year, and that she emailed the teacher numerous times before eventually getting in touch with school administrators who moved her daughter to a different classroom. Jones says she and other families she spoke to were devastated to learn of Church's death, and they believe it should not have taken a young life lost to get the school district to address the bullying many of these parents say happens on an everyday basis.
My heart is broken. What can you say? Because I have a slight bit of guilt, the fact that I can go home and hug my kids, and they can't. That just blows my mind. If I didn't have them, I don't know what I would do. And that's what everybody's afraid of. Is it going to be my child next? And not our kids. No. We, the parents, are angry, and it needs to be looked at.
Special school board session will be held in the high school auditorium at 6:30 p.m. Jones says she expects a packed house. Now, I reached out to Amelia County Superintendent Lori Harper ahead of this meeting. I've not yet heard back, but in a message to families, she explained the goal of this meeting is to, quote, provide detailed information about the code of conduct, the processes for accepting and addressing referrals for student misconduct, the Virginia tiered systems of support, the Action Speak system for reporting bullying, and their anti-bullying programs. Much more ahead at 6:30, Reba.
All right, thanks, Caroline. If you or someone you love is struggling with mental health, remember you can always call Suicide and Crisis Hotline. That number is 988. And if you have a story for Caroline, give her a call or email her so she can help share your voice.
That's right. Everybody's voice should be heard. If you're being bullied, there are things you need to do. There are things that you gotta do. If your child's being bullied online, unplug from that. If you're going on Facebook, social media, they're getting messages saying, I hope you die, you unplug from that, it's gonna go away. Does that mean they're gonna get bullied at school? No. Contact the bully's parents and let them know that you're with them on this. Don't go to them with the hearing parents saying, oh, your child caused my child to commit suicide. Partner with your teacher, talk to them. Because this is an ongoing thing. This is not a time to be like, hey, kids will be kids. And we have to tell them, and we have to tell them this, that telling is not tattling. If you're being victimized and you go to somebody in authority, somebody that's in charge, that's not tattling. That's helping them out. If you're a bystander and you don't do a goddamn thing, you watch them being bullied, you're just as guilty as the bully and the victim. If you don't do a damn thing about it, then that's gonna be on you. It ain't gonna be, that's on you, because you're sitting there, you're filming your cell phone, you post social media and be like, hey, watch this kid getting picked on, I'm not gonna do a goddamn thing. If you don't do something, you're guilty. If you see something, do something. If you don't do something, you're just as guilty. If you're a bystander, you're guilty. That's how it is. And I pray that when my nephew gets older, he comes home from school and tells me I've had a great day at school. If he talks to me and saying, hey, I've been bullied, what do I do? I'm going to give him the exact same tips like I've given y'all. And believe me, I have been bullied. I've been bullied back in 2009. And I didn't tell anybody. But 2015 came, I told, no, and it still continued. And now they're demanding, and now coming back to the family, they're demanding change. But there's an update to this. There's more bullying going, there's bullying going on. This happened last month. He was harassed by racial slurs.
Gathering to rally and call for charges for a woman seen using racial slurs in a video that went viral last week. Members of the community in Rochester gathering to rally and call for charges for a woman seen using racial slurs in a video that went viral last week. Crowdfunding sites are now seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars raised for both the woman and the family on the receiving end of those comments.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about this story. Fox 9's Rob Olson was there for that rally today and joins us now live in Rochester. Rob, really quite the situation down in southeast Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, it's been a week now since this happened, and it really keeps growing here. The emotions keep growing, and the response keeps growing as well. There's going to be another rally here at Soldiers Field Park in Rochester, due to start here at any minute. There'll be a town hall meeting hosted by the NCAA Rochester, the NAACP in Rochester. That will happen on Wednesday evening. And of course, that noon rally today, where people are very, very emotional about what happened and really also what's happened since.
We need to stay together for the right of all people.
On the steps of Rochester City Hall, a crowd of about 75 people called for unity in the face of racism.
Our city is facing a crisis that has become far too familiar. Hate crimes and acts of racism are on an uptick in our community.
A rally that also called for criminal charges against a woman caught on video, in a video that's gone global.
Justice needs to be more than a word right now. It needs to become a standard. Okay?
It was 1 week ago in this Rochester playground when a white woman was overheard using a racial slur towards a 5-year-old boy. She'd accused the boy of trying to steal from her own toddler's diaper bag. A bystander confronted her, and the video, which we are not showing, in which she repeated the slurs, soon went viral. The woman, named Shiloh, then launched a fundraiser to protect her own family. It's raised nearly $700,000. She writes that they fear they might have to move after extreme threats online, and donations have come with even more incendiary racial comments.
Honestly, the incident itself was horrific, you know, accosting a child and then apparently prideful about it, but the fundraising after has just really thrown folks for a loop, including myself.
In both the rally and the brief march that followed came more calls, again, for criminal charges. Police did finish their investigation over the weekend. The city and county attorneys will now decide if, in fact, any laws were broken.
Well, we want her to be prosecuted, and we want to continue spreading love. You got to spread love.
Again, no word on exactly how long it could take to decide if there's any criminal charges here, whether it's city or county level, misdemeanor or felony level. We'll be waiting on that as they review this incident to see, again, if there's a crime here or not. The NAACP did have a fundraiser as well for the family of the child involved in this. That fundraiser went more than $300,000. They've since shut it down, but they say that will go to help that family as well as support other social justice issues. Live in Rochester, Rob Wilson, Fox 9.
Yeah, a story that has now made national news, so we are staying on top of this, of course.
Now, I've watched that video. And I'm not going to show it to you or describe it to you, but she used the N-word. She's a white person. She's Caucasian. She has, let me tell you, she has no right saying that N-word. No right at all. To her child or to anybody. No white person should ever be able to say the N-word. And it's the same thing. Like no person should be calling somebody a bitch or a whore. Nobody should. Like we talked about. Like I said before, I would never ever, but if I did, I came out to that person and said a nigga or nigger, they would beat the crap out of me. And if they gave me that N-word pass, I would tear that up into 1,000 pieces. I would not be able to get that N-word pass. If I did, I'd tear it up. And I have many lady friends. And let me tell you, I have not called. And you can ask them. Has he been respectful to you? They'll tell you, yes, he has. He's very sweet. He's very kind. He's very respectful. And he's never called us a bitch. But if I did, we would not be friends anymore. If I came up to one and said, hey, bitch, what's for dinner? Or, you cheating whore. If I did that, we would not be friends anymore. Restraining orders would be filed against me, and I'd be sitting there in jail thinking about what I have done. The bottom line is this: stop this racism. It is wrong. It is cruel. It is so unacceptable. We're going to take another break, and we'll be right back. You wouldn't steal a movie, would you? You wouldn't steal a baby. You wouldn't put a school on lockdown while you're carjacking somebody, stealing a police officer's helmet, and going to the toilet on the helmet while you're carjacking. And then after you carjack someone, take their stick at someone's shit, you would take that rancid, stinky helmet, send to the window of the policeman, and then steal it again. Jokingly, you wouldn't be going to jail for it. And just wiping your ass with your hands. Ugh, and rubbing all the prison walls and had the guard pass out. Ugh, and then the guard passed out, you escaped from jail. But it happened. Well, not the whole thing, actually. That was just a joke. There were 3 people who have been arrested and attempted carjacking at gunpoint. And police say Police said the victim was 23-year-old Mark Gonzalez. He was on his way to pick up his son when the suspects car dragged him in Hamville Apartments. So let's take a look at this.
Corpus Christi police tell 3 News that it started outside of an apartment on Alameda just across from Driscoll Children's Hospital and 1 block away from Ray High School. The campus went into secure campus mode while police investigated. That means students were told to come inside the building until the all clear was given. The victim, 23-year-old Mark Gonzalez, says he was on his way to pick up his son when the suspects pointed a gun in his face, taking the car and his cell phone. Tonight, we're told by the victim that the thieves made small talk with him before ultimately stealing that car.
I backed away. He hopped out at gunpoint. I did not hesitate to just back away from him. He did take my car, whatever, I did pay the price for that, but at the end of the day, I'm living here.
Now, police tonight able to locate the vehicle and get it back to Gonzalez. The whole ordeal ending with 3 people being arrested at a park off of Ocean Drive. Each faces charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
When I needed a master's degree that fit my life,
nobody learned the lesson while sitting in jail because they were too busy stealing handbags, stealing babies, stealing cars, shooting police officers, going to the toilet on the helmet, and stealing it again. They might as well be going to the jail of stupidity for acting stupid. So cool. It's so great. But the thing you gotta remember here is this. Carjacking is so wrong. It is so long ever. No one should be carjacking or doing no one should ever be doing that. Gambling. In many states, gambling is illegal, but some states make it legalizing gambling. When I go to Stripes in the 7-Eleven, I see these slot machines, technology slot machines. I'm thinking to myself, is it illegal? But the government gambling hypocrisy, bad odds and no wins. But the government always wins with this.
$114 million! Wow! How does that sound?
Do you play the lottery? Lots of us gamble on something.
A flush?
At-home poker games. Casino games, sports, even stock and commodities markets are forms of gambling.
Hey, you! 40 even on 5!
Americans like to gamble. They spent $60 billion at casinos last year, about $12 billion on online sports betting.
Economist Jason Sorens ranked gambling freedom across America. Some states like Nevada let gambling flourish. Utah, Hawaii, and Georgia ban most forms of gambling. And almost half the states even ban social gambling, like home poker games. Sometimes they even arrest players. And some politicians want to ban more. Philadelphia's mayor moved to ban arcade-style gambling machines that are now in gas stations and convenience stores.
It's not okay to tempt our residents to gamble away their hard-earned dollars.
Other politicians take pride in destroying slot machines.
These machines will never go back into circulation.
These no-fun senators even want sports betting banned again.
That is one of the most severe public health problems today.
Yes, gambling can cause problems, but it's also recreation. In a free country, people should be allowed to take risks.
This is a way of having fun, often in a social environment, doing it with friends, adding some extra zing while they're watching a game on TV.
And here's the really absurd thing. The politicians banning gambling don't propose banning the worst form of gambling. Worst by far, their own state lotteries.
On the one hand, you have politicians grandstanding. We need to ban sports betting. We need to destroy these slot machines. This is bad for people. At the same time, they're advertising on television a worse form of gambling than any other.
The new game from the Florida Lottery.
Lotteries pay out the least of any form of gambling. Slot machines are among the worst bets at casinos, yet they still pay out about 90% of the money bet. Sports bettors keep more. But government lotteries take almost half of everything you bet. Worse, they take it from people who need the money most. The people who buy these things are disproportionately poor.
That's right, and the state does a good job of advertising them. I see, it says extreme on there, it's bright colors.
New Jersey pays Shaquille O'Neal to do this.
My new scratch-off gives people across the great state more chances to win Shaq-sized prizes.
Politicians approve their own lottery scams because they want the money.
Over $1 billion goes to good causes, like public education.
That's why governments won't allow private gambling businesses to compete with them.
State governments operate all lotteries, giving it a monopoly over the lucrative business.
It wasn't always like this. Private lotteries were once big. Numbers runners took bets by phone.
The number business has been going on for years. The people have established a close relationship between the writer and the player. They know each other.
But the politicians called that a numbers racket. They arrested the operators.
Police, we have a warrant. Open up.
Bookies also took bets on horse racing, providing off-track betting for people who didn't have time or money to get to the racetrack. Since that reduced the government's cut at the racetrack, politicians banned that. But then they created their own off-track betting.
OTB players are the winningest people in town.
But government is so incompetent, its off-track betting managed to lose money taking bets.
OTB has been in pretty bad shape for the past several years.
OTB keeps on taking everybody's money, and then they're saying they got no money.
They ban bookies.
Right.
But they promote their own off-track betting. And then they can't make money at it?
What we know is that government is always inefficient. The unions get their cut, the wages are high, the benefits are immense. So that's another reason that we shouldn't want government running gambling operations, because they're just going to do it at high cost.
The states ban it. It hurts people. Hey, come play our game, which has worse odds.
That's right. And yet they want to ban the private sector from offering games like this.
That way they can keep making your odds worse.
Powerball increased the number of white balls from 59 to 69. What that did was drive down the odds of you winning the jackpot from 1 in 175 million to 1 in 292 million.
In the private sector, we're used to products improving. Only the government running a lottery would make it get worse over time.
I wanted to confront the association representing state lotteries about their scams, but they would not agree to an interview. They did send us a statement saying a state-run lottery system offers key advantages. Government lotteries are subject to strict oversight. Every dollar accounted for. But that's not true. In Texas, lottery officials helped some companies win a $95 million jackpot. Politicians make pompous claims about how they know best how we should spend our money. They destroy slot machines, arrest people, and ban at-home poker games. Well, they run their own betting scams that offer worse odds.
This is Powerball.
Their hypocrisy is disgusting. They ought to leave us alone. It should be left up to us to spend our money how we want.
Well, I couldn't agree more. We should spend money on what we want, whether we want to gamble, whether we want to bet. We should be able to do it. But I hate gambling. And I hate the lottery. Both are scams. Both are scams, and nobody wants to do a damn thing about it. Nobody. Gambling is illegal. Remember the episode of Young Sheldon where Mima almost got arrested for gambling? Well, George thought of an idea. Your payouts were in cash. That's illegal. Play against Chuck E. Cheese. That's legal. You gotta give them the prizes and give them the money. That's legal. No laws broken, get back in business. I want bear. You take the bear, I buy the bear back. That's how it is. You do that, and you won't be arrested. Or even worse, getting an ankle monitor bears going. Alright. When we come back, things you could not say. When COVID happened, we're going to tell you some things you could not say about the masks and the lab leak. We're going to talk about that when we return. Please do this. Do y'all remember the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic last year? Do y'all remember the things we could not say? Well, you could not say that. You cannot say masks. You cannot talk about COVID. If you do, you're going to get your ass beat. Well, here again, John Stossel.
You better not say that. That's what we reporters covering COVID were told. There are certain things you must not say. For example, MSNBC told us.
From a certain corner of the right is this theory that the coronavirus, quote, escaped from the lab.
Escaped a lab? How ignorant. Everyone knows it wasn't made in a lab.
This coronavirus was not man-made. That is not a possibility.
And mere debate about that, we were told, posed a new threat.
Not the virus itself, but misinformation.
Many media decided it's our job to make certain theories disappear.
One theory that just won't go away is that this virus came from a Chinese lab.
Facebook totally banned this false claim, but now the FBI director says COVID's origin is
most likely a potential lab incident in Wuhan.
The Department of Energy has concluded COVID-19 likely came from a lab leak in China.
So did the smug media apologize and say, we shouldn't be in the censoring business? No, they just ignore what they did. The closest to an admission of guilt we found was this from Chris Hayes.
I have to say, there's a kernel of truth to the idea that some folks were too quick to shut down the lab leak theory.
Media imposed similar bans on what you could say about masks when Senator Rand Paul made this true statement.
The masks don't work very well, particularly the cloth mask.
YouTube suspended him, and Facebook throttled the reporting of science journalist John Tierney when he pushed back against forcing kids to wear masks.
More than 10,000 parents said that masks were giving their kids headaches, making it harder for them to concentrate.
Partly false, said Facebook, while cutting him off. Yet now, a lot of science says wearing masks
probably makes little or no difference.
Perhaps the most blatant case was the media's claim that the New York Post scoop about Hunter Biden's emails just could not be true.
We're supposed to believe that Hunter Biden, in a drunken stupor, dropped off his laptop in, I guess, apparently QAnon repair office, right?
Obviously, Russian interference, said the media.
It's likely Russian disinformation.
It is so obviously a Russian operation.
Twitter's bosses wouldn't even let users decide for themselves. They labeled the Post report potentially harmful and blocked users from sharing it. Facebook was sneakier. They suppressed the story instead of banning it outright. Of course, now the media admit the Post story was true.
Several news organizations have authenticated many emails from the laptop.
So the media who smeared this as a Russian plot, do they now admit they were wrong? No. They just say things like,
nobody cares about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Bad as the media were. What's worse is that government wanted to censor.
We've done nothing in terms of content regulation or in terms of content oversight.
Senator Mark Warner and some other politicians recklessly proposed using government force. Fortunately, that never happened. But government did apply lots of pressure.
We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation.
The White House even urged Facebook to crack down on private messages on WhatsApp. We'll never know about all the government's attempts to censor. But now that Twitter's new CEO opened his books, we can see some of the things government tried to do.
Moderation requests from every corner of government, from the FBI, the DHS, the HHS, DOD,
the CIA and State Department, and even individual politicians. Maine Senator Angus King's staff complained about accounts that were anti-King. Congressman Adam Schiff's office asked Twitter to remove content, suspend many accounts, and suppress search results. To Twitter's credit, a staffer responded, "No, we don't do this." At one point, the Department of Homeland Security created something they called a Disinformation Governance Board. Its boss posted this video.
They're laundering disinfo and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh,
That was a step too far for the public.
The Biden administration is facing fierce backlash for convening a group called the Disinformation Governance Board.
Homeland Security terminated the board. Still, lots of government agencies wanted to control what you read and heard. Often they protected us from the truth. And when they got caught, the White House casually brushed off Twitter's revelations.
Twitter was so haphazardly pushed this distraction. That is a full of old news.
Old news only because they concealed it for so long. At least today, finally, we can discuss those things we weren't allowed to say.
COVID-19 likely came from a lab leak.
The masks don't work very well.
The laptop data we had analyzed showed no evidence it was faked.
Eventually, the truth does come out. But let's not let anyone, in government or out, say, we'll be the gatekeepers. We know what's true. They don't.
We know what's true. And let me tell you, I've been 4 years COVID free. I've had 2 vaccines. And like I've been showing you, this card proves it. This card can prove to you that I was 5 years COVID free. I've gotten 2 vaccines. One of them, the second one, had side effects in it, but I turned out okay. And even then, I still turned out okay. I still did. All right. Well, that's all for this edition of Game Break Monday going to Tuesday. We'll see you again for Game Break Wednesday. For all of us here at YouTube, give me a break. Stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. Take care of yourself and each other. Good night.